Pterodactyl here, and today's video is going to be on this here Honda HRN 216 that's got the Honda GCV 170 engine on it. And there's been a safety recall. There's a safety recall on this mower. That's what we're going to do today's video on. 400,000 of these mowers and engines, utility engines, are on this recall. And the recall has to do with the camshaft. This is the camshaft. It's plastic. The compression release sticks in the closed position. So when you go to pull it, it pulls real hard and it could jerk the rope out of your hand, or it could injure you because it's so hard to pull. Now, the way these recalls work on lawn equipment doesn't work the same way like on your vehicle, like on your car, because your car is registered. Some of this lawn equipment doesn't get registered, either by the dealer or wherever you bought it from. You bought it online, you bought it from a store. A lot of the times the registration is left up to you. You have to register it sometimes. Or a lot of times the dealer you buy it from will register it. So if you have one of these mowers, or you have the utility engine, which is explained in here, if you look, there's these two engines and these two mowers. You're going to have to check and see if yours is going to be recalled. And then there's a way to tell if yours had already been repaired. So you're not wasting a bunch of time and chasing your tail and then find out that it had already been repaired. And we're going to go over that. But this is the recall on this. So if your equipment isn't registered, you're not going to get a notification in the mail telling you to take it to a dealer and have the updated camshaft put in there. And it's not easy to replace this camshaft. You have to tear that whole engine apart. This is a bucket engine that's on this thing, like on the crawler. The camshaft's in the bottom. See, there's no sump cover on here. The sump cover is on the top. So Honda is paying the dealers whatever their labor rate is, 2.5 hours labor to replace this camshaft. And like I said, 400,000 are affected. So that's in the tens of millions of dollars that it's costing them. So I'm going to go through this bulletin and I'm going to show you so you can find out if yours had already been done or not. So here's a serial number range for the engines. We're going to show you a picture of it. You can pause the video so you can get a good look at it, maybe even take a screenshot with your phone. Now it explains here on page 3 that if dealers had any of these in their stock, they're to pull them out of stock, open the box, do the repair, and put a colored dot on the carton that would show that it had already been upgraded to the new camshaft. And in this area here, it tells you this punch mark on the model number here, which is on the engine block. If it's got that center punch mark, that means the repair had already been made. So if you have one of these units and you go out to the garage and you're like, oh, maybe mine's affected by this, and you see that punch mark, you got nothing to worry about. Yours has already been updated. Now, I know what a lot of you are saying right now. I thought Honda quit making walk-behind mowers. I thought they quit making push mowers. They did. They quit making them here in this country. They're still making them in other places. And there's still an inventory of them that they have to get rid of. So that's why you're seeing this. You know, there are still, just when they stop making them doesn't mean they're all sold. So let's get a look-see at this camshaft. So this is the camshaft. I don't know if you're interested in the part number or not, but there it is. Now I know a lot of y'all love your Hondas. Oh, I just love the Hondas, Taryl, and you bash on them all the time. Yeah, well, this is why I bash on them. Look at that plastic camshaft. You like that? Loving your Honda now? It's your plastic camshaft, and this is the compression release. So this thing sticks in the open position. Let me see if I can get it to move. So that's what happens. It sticks. So it's not bumping the valve. And then it makes it real hard to pull. So there it is. That's so it bumps the valve. So as you pull the rope and you're pulling it over, this little nub here bumps the valve, which releases the compression, which makes it easy to start. Then when it starts up, centrifugal force will fling this out of the way once it starts up. And then that swings that out of the way so it quits bumping the valve. So the problem we're having, or they're having, is this is sticking like this. Once it starts, it sticks in this position, and then when you go to start it again, it's real hard to pull, like it's locked up. That's the camshaft. Isn't that nice? That's a nice piece of plastic. Adopt a part. Maybe somebody wants to adopt the old one. So the first thing we need to do is drain all the gas and oil out of it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then we're going to start tearing it apart to show you what it's going to take. 18 or 19 pages of procedure, except for the back pages. Now I don't know why did they do this? Here's a waste of paper. They count that as a page. 20 pages. Look at this page, intentionally left blank. What's the reason behind that? Does anybody know? Put it in the comments. Why did they leave that intentionally blank? They just in the killing trees, wasting paper? All right, so let me drain the gas and oil out of this thing. Oh, another thing I wanted to say. This one hasn't failed yet. This mower runs, and this one's got the blade clutch on it. So you don't have to pull this back to start it. You just put it on fast. And of course, it just made a mess. So this customer got the recall in the mail. That's why they brought it in. They got the recall because this had been registered. So again, if yours hasn't been registered, you're not going to get that letter in the mail. So before I drain the gas and oil, I guess I got to clean up this mess. Okay, I'm going to release the rope from this retainer here. You just pull on it. And then over here we need to remove this Phillips head screw. And take this clip off. Slide that clip off. And then on each side, you can see right here, there's one of those little marks on the other side. You got to pull out. Pull out on that. We're going to take the gas cap off. Pull out. And get the cover off. You also have to pull out back here too. See these little tabs? So it's in 4 spots. But if you pull the front ones out, you can kind of get it to move, and then you can come back here and pull these other 2. So now we've removed the cover with the gas cap. I'll set that over here, and then we'll move on to the next. So now there's 5 10mm headed screws that we need to take off to pull this blower shroud off with the recoil. There's 2 here, and this one on the side. They're all the same length. So now we can take that off. Okay, I'm going to disconnect the spark plug wire, and I'm going to pull this kill wire off. Now, in the bulletin, some of these mowers have the brake on here, the brake assembly, the bail that you have to pull down to start it. But this engine has a blade clutch on it, so we don't have that. We don't have that brake assembly, and they got a procedure for disconnecting that. So now we're going to disconnect, we're going to not disconnect, but we're going to remove the flywheel. And they go into, you know, getting a puller and all that stuff on there, but you know how I pull the flywheel. I'm just going to put the nut back on, get it flush with the top of the crankshaft. Then I'm going to put a pry bar underneath it. I got to find a good spot to pry off of. I'm going to pry off of this bolt head here. I don't want to pry over here because I could snap that off. So I'm just going to put it under here. That's a good spot. Go around the other side there because I'm left-handed, mister. So I'm going to put some pressure on it, and I'm going to try to whack it in the center and not hit these. And I'll turn it 180 degrees. If it doesn't come off right away. There we go. I gotta zip that nut back off. Oh, there it is. Alright, so now the flywheel's off. It's a heavy flywheel. Okay, so now I'm going to blow all this off. I want to clean all this off under here. So I'll blow this off with shop air. And then we're going to remove these bolts that are holding that sump cover on. All right, 12mm socket. See, it's a bucket engine. Just like that piece of crap, Kohler Courage. Kroller Courage. Still loving on your Hondas? Now there's some pry points where you can pry this off of. And there's another one over here. Come over here. If you look in here, there's a little area where you can pry. Right there. There's a little spot where you can put a screwdriver to pry that off. There's no gasket, silicone. There's a vent tube right here. Oh, and let me take this flywheel key out. I forgot to take the flywheel key out. A pair of side cutters usually work to grab it. Those are a little too heavy. Let me try these little baby guys. See if we could grab it with that. There we go. Throw that in a little tray I got. And then I got this kill wire here I gotta release from here. There we go. Now we can lift that off. There's your sump cover. There's your gasket. A very, very thin layer of that gray Honda stuff. So there's our camshaft. See it down there underneath here. So now we have to take the cap screws off that on the connecting rod, and we have to unbolt this cylinder and pull the cylinder off. They also want you to pull the valve cover. So, I mean, they've got it step by step in there how to do it. I'm not following it exactly. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pull this valve cover off. And again, this is glued on with silicone sealant, no gaskets anymore. So a lot of times you end up destroying this cover, and they want you to replace it with a new one if you end up doing that. You can kind of straighten it back out if you've got some flat steel. You can kind of hammer it back, and when you silicone it, you can silicone it back on there if you're careful. If not, you got to buy a new valve cover. So if this is a shop that's doing this, you know, that's something else that you might want to buy. Sometimes I use a scraper to get in there. If it didn't have that lip on there, I could get it with that scraper. What happened to that screwdriver I had? Because there's pry points here too. Where you can pry on it to get that valve cover off. Probably gonna destroy it a little bit. Yeah, it's really stuck on there. Still loving that Honda, huh? Probably not loving them so much now. So I got it. I just bent it a little bit. I could probably bend that back and get it to reseal. So I'm gonna go stick that over on a pan and let it drain while we're taking this thing apart. All right, let me get a wrench, and I'm gonna take the spark plug out so it makes it easier to turn it over. Take this plug out. I want to be able to get to these connecting rod bolts. 10mm head. There's one. So that GCV model engine of theirs, Honda's, It's not like that GX. This is their equivalent to the Courage and the Brakes and Scrap 'em Intech. This is Honda's low-end, cheap engine. Because they all have a good engine and they all have a crappy. Get it, boy. Crawler's got the Command, which is their good one. It's okay. It's not, I wouldn't say it's that good. And then their crappy one is that Courage. Brakes and Scrap 'em's got the Vanguard, which is supposed to be their better engine. And then the Intech is the crappy one that's got all the problems. And then Honda's got the GX. And then this GCV and GC is their crappy one. So there's our match mark for our connecting rod. There it is, right there and there. That's the match mark. So you put the cap back on the correct way. We're not going to take the piston completely out. And then we're going to shove this up as far as it'll go. Which is, that's it. That's as far as it goes. Alright. So now I need to take these two bolts off. 12 millimeter again. Alright, so we got to remove these. Now that valve cover, another reason you want to be real careful when you take it off, because that valve cover is about 35, 40 bucks, depending on where you buy it. So you're going to want to be careful not to destroy it. Alright, so we got those two. There's two more down here that we need to take off to get this off. So I'm just going to push on the valve to get that push rod out of there. And then I'm going to slide this pin out to get the rocker out of our way. Now remember that this head of this goes to the outside here. Because if you put it in this way, when you go to reassemble it, this is going to fall out. You know what keeps it in there? The valve cover. That's how they retain it. The edge of the valve cover is right here. So we can't walk out. So remember that. And you go to put it back together. Alright, I gotta get an extension to get in there so we can pull this cylinder back. Now again, I'm not following the exact procedure step by step that they laid out in there. Because we still gotta go underneath and take the clutch and everything off. Because we gotta lift up the crankshaft to get that cam out. And this is the first one I've ever done. So it's like anything when you work at a shop, the first one's gonna take the longest, you know, and then once you do a couple of them, then you get faster and faster at it. So we need to disconnect the fuel line too, so we could slide this jug back. So in the instructions, they tell you to take the air box and everything off and take the carburetor off, which we're going to have to do. Oh, look at this. This is sweet. Huh. Somebody's been really taking good care of this. There's no air filter in here. They took it out, the customer. That's nice. took it out and left it out. Don't need that. This mower ain't gonna last long. This isn't warranty. It already ingested a bunch of dirt. All right, so I gotta clean that out. I'm gonna get my air blower. Stuff this rag in there. Try to keep from any more of that crap getting in there. All right, let's remove this now. There's the air box. Get those nuts there. This is for that auto choke. We need to release the clamp for the fuel line. Take the fuel hose off. Now it tells you in those instructions to reuse the gaskets. But they said if you damage them, to order new ones. So this gasket, it's got metal in it. And it's got a coating on it. So this isn't a paper gasket. And as you can see, how much dirt it's ingested already. And it ran. You saw me run it. Look at that. Look at that crap in there. Where's my little baby screwdrivers at? Look at all that crap in there. Getting sucked right in. This mower won't last long. So now we're going to release the spring that's on the governor shaft link, and then we're going to take that off, and then I'll have to clean this out, blow it out real good. But again, it did run. Okay, so now we got all that off. So now we could slide the cylinder back. But before we do all that, I'm going to flip it up and we're going to take all the clutch and everything off. So the first thing I got to do is clear a bunch of this stuff out of my way so I can flip it up. Alright, let's take the blade off now in this clutch. 14. Yep. 14 millimeter. All right. Now, do I need to take all this off? I'm going to have to go and refer to those instructions. I think all I got to do is take the key out. And the crankshaft should be able to pull the crankshaft out. I'm not sure. Let me go look at the instructions. I've got the clutch removed, and all I got to do is tap on the crankshaft with a plastic hammer and it'll come up. So I'm going to take this 10 millimeter headed bolt out here that's holding the muffin on. So that releases that. And then again, there's like tri points here. So we could get this released. I want to make sure. I don't want to damage nothing. Here's a spot right here. Right in between here. There we go. That you can pry on. And then I'll pry over here again a little bit. All right, what do we I forget something? It should come off. There we go. So there's your cylinder. So this is what you got to do a valve job. You want to do a valve job on this? You have to pull this whole cylinder out. Then you have to pull the piston out. Now you can get to the valves. Still loving that Honda? Still loving on them? Smooching on them? Same with that older GCV. That older one, the vertical shaft one. Same thing when you want to do a valve job on it. Got to take the whole engine apart, where the crankcase is in half. We got one of them engines on our pressure scrubber right outside the door here. Got split it in half. It's like a half a bucket. But same thing. This is an older GCV. Same thing. Had them where the end of the valve busts off, where the keeper is. This would break off, and then the valve goes down in there, and then the piston hits it and bends it, and then they're like, "Can you fix that?" And I go, "Yeah, but why don't you just go buy another engine? It's going to be expensive. Take it all apart." Another problem we had with the older GCVs and GXBs or whatever the heck they're called is the rocker arm would break all the time. It would break in half. All right. So now we can get the camshaft out. And here's our timing marks. Right here. There's your marks. There's your 2 marks there. And these 2 marks here. That's what's got to line up. So now we gotta lift the crankshaft up far enough to get this out. We don't have to take it all the way out. And they're all worried about, in that instructions, they're all worried about the seal. Don't take it all the way out. See, your gear drops down. Is this enough to get this out? Nope. And I heard something on that spring tension on that clutch here, release. I'll tap it a little more. There we go. Is that enough? Let me get this up. There's a key under there. There, now we got the cam out. And here's our so there's your plastic cam. Remember that movie, The Graduate, with Dustin Hoffman and Bancroft? I'll never forget this. There's a scene in that movie where they're at his house. I think it's his graduation party. I may be wrong, but there's a scene where they're all at the house, all around the pool, and they're having a party. I think it's a graduation party, and his dad's friends and stuff are coming up to Dustin Hoffman, and they're putting their arm around him. And I remember this one guy was saying, "Plastic is the future. Plastic." So back in the 60s, remember, plastic was the enemy back then. Jimi Hendrix white collar conservative flashing down the street, pointing his plastic finger at me. Plastic was the enemy back then. And what's the enemy today? Batteries. Batteries are the enemy. I'll never forget that. Plastic is the future. So now you got to lift this up and make sure it locks in to that key. And then we're going to put this in. And our lifters. Got to make sure this stays up in that spot. Where's my hammer here? We got to get this. Oh. I got to get this up again a little bit. I'm a tooth off. What are we hitting? Are we hitting anything? It's probably that clutch under there. It's hanging us up. There we go. Alright. So now our new cam's in. So now all I gotta do is clean all this silicone off. In oil, put the cylinder head back on. Make sure our governor weights and everything are good. Everything is meshing like it should. This still isn't down far enough. See, that came out of play there. We've got to go down a little bit more. Something's not. What a pain in the keister this thing is. That came out on us. There we go. We lined up. All right, I have to flip this thing up on its side. There we go. Now I gotta line this up again. Gotta make sure that governor gear meshes. I think we're down now. Yeah, I think I got it. I think we're down. This isn't moving on me. But see what a pain this is? So they want you to spin it around a couple times to make sure everything's good. Make sure our marks line up again and nothing fell out. Nothing's binding. All right. Now I got to clean all this silicone off, and you're not going to sit there and want to watch me do that. So I failed to show you on the mower earlier where that center punch mark would be if yours had already been upgraded, and that center punch mark is going to be right in front of this G. That's where we're going to have to punch it when we're done with this job. So that's where it is. It's in this area by the gas valve underneath. So that's where you need to look. Now they say when you reassemble these to use Yamabond or an equivalent. So I'm going to use our Velco Cincinnati aluminum sealer, silicone sealer that we sell in our online store, and this tube gripper which we also sell. So I've got all the surfaces cleaned, and they tell you in there, you know, don't use a wire brush, don't use a scraper, they don't want you to gall this. So what I use is a Scotch-Brite. A Scotch-Brite pad works real good. But, you know, it's tedious and it takes time to clean all that material off. So we have to put a thin bead on. You don't want to lay it on heavy, and the reason you don't want to do that is, see this passage right here? This is where the oil comes through to feed the head. And if you put a bunch of silicone on there and it squeezes and closes off that hole, you're not going to get any oil up to the valves and the rockers and everything. This is the other end of it. So when it goes on, it goes like this. This is the oil passage. So you gotta be careful. You can't go crazy with the silicone. So I'm gonna get a Q-tip, and then I'm gonna clean my ears. No, I'm gonna clean this out. Because there's some crud in there from when I was cleaning it. And then I'll blow it out a little bit with some shop air. Just to make sure to lightly blow that out. Because this has got to be real clean. We don't want to get any oil or anything on it. So we're going to just put a thin bead of this. Being careful around here. I'll smooth that out. Just make a gasket. Come on. So, you know, getting back to the plastic thing, making everything out of plastic while we're doing this. Remember when cars had metal radiators and metal manifolds, intake manifolds, and the radiators were made out of metal? Now everything's made out of plastic. Take my rubber glove off because I want to kind of smooth it. So I don't want to block that off. Now it doesn't tell you any of this in those instructions. This is just stuff that you learn from doing this stuff. Well, remember that? Now every plastic intake manifolds on cars and plastic radiators. How many radiator shops are there? Not too many. All right. Now another thing I noticed when I was cleaning the silicone off of there, this rod has a tendency to move on me. So again, got to make sure your match mark is facing up, and ours was to that side. So now we can shove this back in there, get our lineup pins lined up. All right, let's get this lined up too a little bit before we go bolting it all down. There we go. All right, we'll just leave that like that. Now I'll go ahead and reinstall the bolts. No mention of Loctite or any of that on the bolts. And then we'll have to torque them down. I have to look at those instructions to see what torque what torque setting they wanted. So here's the bolts. As you can see, there's no thread sealer on there. I am going to blow the threads off. Now I know there's shops that are probably doing these warranties and they're just, nope, them ain't the bolts that went in there. Here they are, it's these long ones. But again, no thread lock ring. So I'll go ahead and tighten them down, and I'll get you that torque setting, and I'll go ahead and torque them. Okay, I'm going to put the connecting rod cap on, and I need to lubricate it because I've already cleaned it. Oh, there's a little piece of grass on there. How'd that get on there? So you can use motor oil because they want you to fill this with 1030, or you can use our gel lube, which we sell in our online store. This is good assembly oil or lubricant. Whoop, almost dropped it. Because it's sticky and it sticks to the parts. So it's good to use as an assembly. There's our match marks are lined up again. And I'll go ahead and tighten them down and torque them. Okay, I got the cylinder head torqued back down, 18 foot-pounds. The connecting rod bolts, 9 foot-pounds. This sump cover is also 18 foot-pounds. So I'm going to go ahead and reinstall the push rods. I need a light. So you want to make sure you get the end of this in the little socket, and I'm going to spray some gel lube on there too, on the end of that ball. So there it is right there. You got to look with a light down in there. I don't know how many people have tried to reassemble an engine and they miss. And then they wonder why their valves aren't going up and down. And here's our rocker. Remember what I said earlier? About the pin. You want the head of the pin to the outside. Otherwise it's going to fall out. And I'm sure there's some knuckleheads that are supposed techs at some of these shops because we hear horror stories all the time. Well, I took it there and that kid that worked there, he was supposed to be a factory trained technician. Come on. There we go. I got her. That muffin cover's in the way. Alright. So now I'll put a thin bead of that silicone on there. We'll put some gel lube on this journal here. Get this thing back together. Okay, I got that cover torqued down. I set the flywheel on there. Now I want to spin it over by hand. Make sure everything's going up and down. You can see our compression release. It'll bump this valve. See that little bump? That's the little bumping of it. Now in those recall instructions, they had in there to take the coil off, and it's like, why should I take the coil off? I'll just leave the coil on there. And another thing we noticed on that was, I'm gonna put a little never sees on there, on that crankshaft, which we also sell in our online store. We got the non-metallic and the copper. A little never sees on there. So another thing they didn't have in there was the torque spec for the connecting rod. So we had to go and look that up. What did I do with that? Now I gotta find the socket for the flywheel nut. Dang nabbit. There it is. I remember I moved a bunch of stuff over there. So they got a torque spec on that too. Let me find it. Okay, we need to check our valve clearances because you may have got them mixed up or they may change with the new cam. And it's supposed to be 4 thousandths in here. So you bring the piston to top dead center, both valves are closed. And you can see through the spark plug hole a lot of times the piston when you're at the top. So that valve opened and closed, and then the piston, let's get the piston up here. Where are you, piston? Having a hard time seeing the piston now. You can stick something in there to find it. So we got clearance on this one, and we got no clearance on this one. It's tight. So 4 thousandths. So this is the only time you're probably ever going to use a 9mm wrench, because that's what these nuts are, 9mm. Loosen the nut. We'll back that off. Stick our 4 thousandths in there. Want a little drag on it. And there we go. There's our dinner. Four thousandths. This one, a little sloppy. So this one we're going to have to close up a little bit. That's good right there. Try to hold it with this because I don't have a little wrench to hold that with. There we go. Oh yeah, that's good. All right, so we got our valve clearances set. So now I gotta put some silicone on that. I got the carburetor back on. I need to just tighten these down. I cleaned all that crap out of there. We got that torqued to 55 foot-pounds. And then I just got to put the clutch on underneath, put the cover and all that back on. Where's my kill wire? I got to find that kill wire. Hook that back up. Make sure you get this vent, crankcase vent tube off the air box. Make sure you get that put back in its spot. Because I know a lot of people, when they put these things back together, they always forget to hook that tube up. I've done that too before. So let me find that kill wire and get that hooked up too. Get this thing buttoned up. Here it is. Hiding way back here. There we go. There's our dinner. I'm going to route it underneath. I'm going to route it underneath this vent tube. All right. We're getting there. So I had to pop this back on. So if yours comes off, you know, make sure you pop it back on there and you get this over this. This is that anti-rotation device, and you got to line the keyway up. So that's why it's good to have the cover off, because I had to pull this back a little bit, take some tension off, and get it lined up so I can put the key in there. And I'm going to make sure the belt for the drive is on there and not twisted. Want to make sure. I'm going to put the key back in there. It's got to line up. Of course, there's no mention of any of this in those instructions. I'm just worried about that drive belt. So now that I got that key in there, I'm going to hold it in there because it wants to fall out. All right, everything's good. I gave it a spin doctor. So this goes on next. And then our clutch, which has got some spring tension to it. All right. Now, I don't know what the torque spec on this is, because again, it's not in there. It's not in those instructions. They do tell you to refer to the shop service manual. I'm going to hammer it down, but I'm not going to go crazy hammering it down. All right, and we'll check it again by spinning the flywheel, because this is a clutch model. Okay, so I'll go ahead and put the blade back on, and we'll finish buttoning it up, and then we'll put the dinosaur syrup in it and the dinosaur juice, and then we'll start it. I really like this tube gripper. If you don't have one of these, you need to get one. It really gives you good control when you're using these little tubes. I mean, you don't have to use it for silicone. You can use it for any kind of little tubes you get around the house. It's like a little mini caulk gun. I really like this thing. All right. Put that on. Give it a little move it around a little bit to get it to seat. We'll put these in. We're almost done. Be careful when you do this. Sometimes you don't want to cross thread them. There's a torque spec on this. This is my torque spec. The impact. All right. Dinosaur syrup. Dinosaur juice. And away we go. Okay, to properly check the oil on these Hondas, and Kawasaki does this too, or as I like to call them, kind of sucky. You don't screw it in when you check it. You back it up so it goes down in there and you just pull it out. That's how you properly check the oil on a Honda. You don't screw it in to check it. You just set it in there. I always back it off because it's going to drop down a little bit. I can feel it drop down. And then you just pull it out. And then right there, right at the edge of that, where that line is, down here. Right at the edge of my thumbnail. They do have a little picture on here, but it's kind of confusing. But if you notice, they show it not screwed in. But who's looking at pictures? I got the dinosaur syrup in it, dinosaur juice. I got the gas valve on. I got the blade back on. We just got to put this cover back on. Oh, I got to put the gas cap back on too. The only reason I took the gas cap off is because when I was blowing it off, I didn't want a bunch of crap to end up in the gas tank. There's one last thing I need to do before we start this thing, and that's mark it with that center punch mark, so that way they know that it had the upgraded camshaft put in it. So of course they don't give you a lot of room to do that. Should have probably did it when I had it all apart, but I didn't take this plate off. And they don't give me a lot of room to do this. Jeez. Honda, we make it simple. Let me get a better pair of pliers. A straight pair might help. It's not where they showed it, but I'm going to put it, there we go. There's our center. I got two center punch marks. So maybe they'll think it was done twice. But it's marked. Now I get asked this question a lot, you know, because I know a lot of you are probably sitting there thinking, well, what's a good one to buy, Taryl? Since you don't like Honda, you don't seem to like any of this stuff. What's a good one to buy? Well, they haven't made one yet. Older stuff is good, some of the older stuff, but this new stuff, it just seems like it's getting harder and harder every year to kind of fix this stuff because of parts availability and other issues. They're just making everything so cheap. You know, it's hard for me to answer that question, what to buy, because everything is turning into a throwaway, like a throwaway society. There's more and more mower shops across the country that are closing. Not a lot of them are opening up, or even, you know, able to sell one that you might have to somebody. So it's getting harder and harder in this industry as each year goes on. But I mean, it's not a bad mower. It's okay. It's a walk behind mower. What do you expect? You know, you expect too much out of this stuff, and then with today's labor rates going higher and higher, you know, it gets to the point where you can't fix a lot of this stuff because it's not cost efficient. You know, where you're gonna put all this money into something when you just turn around and buy another one. That's how, you know, everything is becoming throwaway. I say that's about appliances. You know, you don't get your appliances fixed that much anymore. Look at your appliances. I hear people all the time telling me how they got washing machines and dryers and refrigerators. Some of them not even a year old, and they're breaking down. I had a hot water heater installed not too long ago, and a couple of months, and something broke on it. I mean, they came out and fixed it. It was under warranty, but still, a couple of months? Come on. So, yeah, I bash these products because I work on them all the time, and I see this stuff, and I see what kind of crap they're turning out. And then they sit there and taunt it as if, oh, it's the best, that's the greatest. Yeah, right. So, I'll get off my soapbox now, and let's start the mower. Okay, we got it all back together. Let's see if I know I forgot one thing. Putting this back on. I'll have to tighten that up. I put a new air filter in it too, since it was missing. Well, there you have it. Quite a bit of work to replace that camshaft. Not like a conventional engine where you just pull the engine off, pull the sump off, put it together. We had to pull this thing all apart. And we figured out what GCV stands for. Garbage can vehicle. That's what this is, a garbage can vehicle. Alright. We fixed another one. Made you aware. 400,000, almost 500,000 lawnmowers and utility engines out there with this bad camshaft. That's bad for Honda, but they got money. They got plenty of money. So if you like this video and you haven't already subscribe to this YouTube channel. Follow me with your recalls on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm a clock. TikTok. Go to our web store. You can get some of the items that we used in there. Or t-shirt, hats, spark plug necklace. We got all kinds of stuff. Check it out if you already haven't. And as always, there's your dinner. Woo! Honda! They should all be recalled right to the dumpster.